Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
To begin to look at what the reforms, if indeed they will result in anything positive. It looks like a very Herculean task to mount. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. So let's begin with Dr. Randy Abbey. You say the situation is where we have beans, but they are not buying. The beans are too expensive. How did we get here?
Thank you very much, Samson, and a very comprehensive analysis by Isaac. Isaac should add one more slide, and I think that will tell the story fully, which will be a slide on the world market prices over the period. You know, he did one on the producer price,
right,
and showed that. But if you, and then explain the drop from 25 to 26. Now, if you have one which also deals with the world market price, that will also tell you that you have an unprecedented situation of the farm gate prices dropping, because there's also an unprecedented situation of the world market price also dropping sharply. And I think that will just fully tell the story.
All right, Kofi, yeah. So that's feedback for you.
Yes. Now, we are where we are because our bean is not competitive, the price of our bean, as compared to other origins. And you also have a buyer-funded model.
Our beans is more expensive.
Yes, yes.
Comparatively.
And the gap is too wide. And it's the reason why you have a situation where there are complaints that we've given beans, they've not been bought. We have beans, they are not buying, yet there's no smuggling. Last year, you didn't have a situation of we have supplied beans, they've not been bought. We have beans, they are not buying. Yet there was massive smuggling. Almost on a daily basis, we had arrests or reports of smuggling, to the extent that we even had national security meetings on smuggling just last year, because we were paying $3,100, and if you go to places like Togo, who operate close to the price on the terminal, they were operating 6,000 and upwards. And so you had a situation where there were merchants who were actually coming onto the farms to even buy from the farmers, and the farmers didn't even need to smuggle the good themselves. These people will come
because they were paying us almost twice as much.
Yes. And so, although last year you didn't find the situation of there's no money to buy the crop, we have given our bean, it's not been sold, we had massive smuggling. But this year, you do not have incidents of smuggling, even when you have situation of farmers saying that I gave my bean, I've not been paid, we have beans, they are not buying. And I will use the story of Volta and OT to illustrate this point. For the entire 24-25 season, Volta and OT contributed 97 tons to the 590-something thousand, almost 600,000 tons that we made for 24-25. This year, as of December, Volta and OT had contributed 2,500 tons. And you hear a lot of complaints, just by close of December, about 2,500 tons. From the same area, that contributed just 97 tons. And so it is really a pricing issue. And that is why, even in this situation, we needed to be careful with the decision that we took, because we also needed to have our eye on reverse smuggling. You go trying to solve a problem, and before you realize, you think that you're solving a 70,000 ton problem, only to have 400,000 tons of cocoa arrive in your country. We know what is happening everywhere around us. There are countries that have not announced a reduction, but we know what is happening on the ground.
Explain the reverse smuggling again.
Reverse smuggling simply means, first of all, for all the communities that are along the border, it's trite knowledge that they operate in two markets. So they look at which market is favorable to them. Beyond them, as I gave the story of Volta and OT to illustrate the point, you know, they look at what the conditions are. And that is why we always look at Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire pricing, because the research shows that anytime there is a gap of more than $400, the incidence of smuggling is very high. That's per ton. The incidence of smuggling is very high. And so you try to ensure that to deal with smuggling, you do not have that gap. Because when it is below that, you do not have an incentive to smuggle, especially in large quantities.
Right.
And so when you have that huge difference where you're paying $3,100 and the spot price is in excess of $6,000, $7,000, then the motivation is there. And that's why I said people will even come to the farms, give the farmers $5,000, and the farmers didn't even need to take the risk of smuggling. It was enough good business for others to decide to then do the smuggling themselves.
That's right.
And so you had massive smuggling, some even using vehicles that, 4x4s, they were using hospital ambulances and all that. So for last year, every single day, we had an issue with smuggling, and it is just because of the difference between what we were offering and what our neighbors were offering. This time round, you have a situation where what we are offering and the spot price has a gap of over $1,000 US dollars, or even $2,000 US dollars in some instances. And therefore, there is no motivation, for smuggling. But the reverse smuggling would then mean that if you continue to pay, and why we didn't have the reverse smuggling, although the amount was that there was no liquidity. So even those who intend to smuggle know that Ghana is not buying. But immediately Ghana starts buying, and starts buying at that rate, there will be the motivation for those around us to then bring in a lot of the cocoa. We all know what is happening in Cote d'Ivoire. I'm sure that in your research you would have seen the farmers in Cote d'Ivoire complaining. There's an EU24 interview, Euronews 24 interview of farmers talking about their produce rotting away on their farms and their warehouses and all that. Now, in a situation where Ghana has liquidity and is buying, and the price is at that level, there will be an incentive to smuggle. So that's why I said that if you're not careful, you might think that you're solving a 70,000 ton problem, only to be confronted with a 400,000, sorry, a 400,000 or 500,000 ton problem, which is then going to mess up your loss situation completely.
Just a quick side issue. Yeah. From what you're saying, I get a revelation that where, say, Cote d'Ivoire is doing 2 million, and we are struggling to get to 1 million, even though we have done that before. I remember Kufuor's regime when we got to that point, and there was celebration that greeted it. So it's not exactly the case that what we record has been what we produce, because you have to discount what may have been smuggled.
Yes. So I'll give you an example. For 23-24, COCOBOD projected a crop of 800,000. At the end of the season, COCOBOD had done 438,000. And that's the situation that led to the rollover of about 333,000 tons. Now, something significant happened. And that was the year that the syndicated loan collapsed, after 32 years. Now, for the first time, the season opened in September. The first tranche of the syndicated loan hit COCOBOD's account on the 22nd of December. According to Licobag at their press conference, the first time they received money was January 26 of 2024. So what it meant was that the season opened in September, and if I just give a little explanation so that people then appreciate this. Under the syndicated loan regime, COCOBOD would then make a projection of its crop output, and then also a projection of the price. And then on the basis of that, COCOBOD would then give a mandate to the cocoa marketing company to go and sign contracts on the basis of how much COCOBOD expects to spend in purchasing the crop. So let's say COCOBOD makes a projection of 600,000 with a price of 5,000. And so they ask CMC to say, go and sign contracts of 500,000. 500,000, not less than $5,000. So they go sign this. And COCOBOD needs, let's say, $1.8 billion. And the financing cost of maybe some 120 million. So CMC will sign these contracts, 500,000 tons with the international buyers. at not less than $5,000. These contracts are what COCOBOD sends to the consortium of banks, the syndicated banks, as collateral. So this is raw beans contract. So COCOBOD commits to supply 500,000 of its expected 600,000 output, raw beans, to these suppliers, who then have signed a contract to buy the beans at this price. Now, once the banks receive this, they then, on the basis of that, look, we have a 2.5 billion CD collateral, dollar collateral. COCOBOD needs 1.8 billion plus financing cost is less, 1.92 billion. So we'll release the money on agreed tranches. This money comes to the central bank. The central bank gives COCOBOD the CD equivalent, Bank of Ghana rate. Then out of this money received by COCOBOD, COCOBOD then gives what is called seed fund to the license buying companies. So the license buying companies then use these seed funds to buy the cocoa from the farmers on behalf of COCOBOD. Now you had a situation where in 23-24, the season opened in September. September, October, November, December, the LBCs had not been given any seed fund to buy the bean. Now, this is at the peak of your main crop season. What do you think would have happened during this period? For all this period. So some of the LBCs had to by themselves go and take loans to try and go on the market and all that. But the seed fund that usually is given to this LBCs maybe by mid-September or third week in September to go and buy the crop on behalf of COCOBOD was not available. In a situation like that, you shouldn't be surprised if there is smuggling.
There's the suggestion that you could have preempted something sometime in November in 2025.
All right, so you see, when you discuss this issue without factoring in the funding model, then you miss it. You see, I've heard people speak about forward sale and all those things. Now, look, Samson, if you project to do 650,000, and by the time we go to where we were, you are done 581,000. By let's say first week in January, 581,000. That's by 82%. So where is that argument coming from? I hear people say that, oh, you do forward and you forward sell about 70% and all that. By the time that we got into this situation, COCOBOD had taken over 581. 530,000 of that had contracts. 530,000 of that had contracts. So the 5,040 that was promised the farmers, you had a commitment on 581,000 of your projected 650,000. So where's the argument coming from? That they were only doing spot pricing. In fact, some of the 25-26 were forward sold in 24-25. Some of them were forward sold in 24-25 during the 24-25 season. So the issue about they should have done forward sale and they changed it and all that. Now, mind you, you see, under the syndicated loan regime, you are bound to find contracts for the sale of the raw bean to collateralize the loan. So you sign these contracts and present these contracts to the consortium of banks as collateral for the advancement of the syndicated loan. Now, when this collapsed and we had this buyer's model, it is now the buyers who place the orders. And then it's the buyers who provide part of the funding for the purchase of the bean. So you are only liquid, or you only have liquidity when the buyers advance money to you. Under the syndicated loan scheme, you've done the thing, you have agreed on intervals for the money to come. Those monies come in, you have control over your money. You take the money from the Bank of Ghana, you give seed fund for the LBCs to go and buy on your behalf. Under this model, which started from 24-25, it is the buyers who then make an order. I want 50,000 tons. And they make a declaration. Maybe it says that, oh, I would want it in November. And then they will give you 80%. It was 60% in 24-25 because the farmer share was about 63.9. When the farmer share moved to 70 on the basis of the NDC's manifesto, then it had to move to 80 because the 60 will not be enough to even buy the bean from the farmer. So it is the buyers who then provide the liquidity for you at every point in time that they make an order, for you to be able to give that to the LBCs to go and buy. So at the point when the buyers decided that, look, your beans were too expensive for them, and they had many other origins to buy from, you have a liquidity problem. But I'm saying that at this point, we are done about 82% of our projection. But once the buyers move from your market and they are not purchasing, you do not have the liquidity because they are funding the purchase of the crop. And that is the situation that we found ourselves in.
Okay. So, Michael, I want to get you briefly on this. I've heard the minority suggest that this was avoidable. This is self-inflicted. Listening to Dr. Abbey now, it sounds like it was unavoidable. And in fact, they have done the very best that could be done.
Samson, good morning to your listeners, your viewers. Is good Dr. Randy Abbey is here. And I think quite clearly Isaac explained the issues very well. He's done very well, except to say that between 2020 to 2023, one of the reasons why the price was going up was not just because of the FX factor, but also the LID, the living income differential of $400 that came to add to the pricing. So that was also a factor that increased the price between 2020 to 2023. Now, to the main question that you ask, that the situation is something that they couldn't have done anything about. I think it is a self-inflicted problem, because right here, Dr. Randy Abbey is saying that even the 26 cocoa, part of it had already been sold. So it means that in 2024, the previous administration has sold forward the 24-25 cocoa and sold part of 25-26 cocoa. That is why he's trying to say. No, you just said part of the 26 cocoa had already been sold So, and you mentioned
25, yes.
And you mentioned that you have
so
sold
not 26.
82%.
He said 24, 25.
He said, so I wrote
26?
it down. Yeah, he said part of 26. Unless you change.
No, I mean 25, 26.
Yes,
that's what I mean.
So 25,
so part of 25, 26
Yes, that's
had already been forward
24,
sold.
25.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
So that's
I get that.
I'm
Please
saying.
proceed. Yeah.
So you are saying that the previous administration has sold part of 25, 26 cocoa.
No. That's not what I mean. 24, 25 started in September.
Yes.
And then in August.
They have sold it. And you are saying part of 25, 26 had already been sold.
Yes, not by the previous administration. That's not what I mean. The previous administration was in office September, October, November, December. Yes, but the season continued January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August.
Okay. The 82% that you are saying has been sold.
Yes.
Which period was it sold?
From, let's say, about March of 2025 to August of 2025.
Is it the same buyers that bought the cocoa?
When is it?
The same buyers you sell to?
Yes.
So how come the buyers are saying they won't buy now? And how come you couldn't sell, if you were able to sell 82%? Have you delivered all the 82%? No.
Yes.
You delivered all the 82%? No. So how come you couldn't sell the rest? Oh. That is why we are saying it's a trading option gone wrong.
I am
because, surprised. No, don't be surprised. You have the opportunity to sell for it.
You should have an answer to that question. I think it's a legitimate question he's asking you. No, because from my layman's understanding,
yes,
if there is a forward sale,
exactly,
yes,
and you say you have delivered,
yes,
then we shouldn't have a problem.
You shouldn't have a problem. No. Based on what did you announce, achieve that FOB price that you announced last year? It is based on the forward sales you made. That gives you clarity of the next season. Then you come and announce, and when you are calculating your forward sales, you take the main crop aggregates multiplied by the price, the prevailing price, you take, if you have, let's say, some rollovers, you take the rollovers aggregate, multiply by prevailing price, then your projected light crop aggregate by the prevailing price, you add all these to achieve your FOB price, which you came to announce in October last year. Last year, you announced price in August, didn't you?
Yes.
Why did you announce it in August?
We opened the season in August.
You opened the season earlier,
yes,
because you were supposed to open it in October. But the reason you had to open it earlier is because earlier in the year, you had come out to announce that in October, you'll be increasing price, and because of that, the president also went out to say they will increase price in October. So the cocoa that they were supposed to bring, they were not bringing, so you had to open price the season in August so that you receive your beans. And that is why we are saying some of the things, comments you made outside affected COCOBOD. Because you come out in as far back as March to announce that I will increase pricing at the end of the season, everybody will hoard. LBCs will hoard, farmers will hoard, nobody will bring the cocoa to you. So you were forced to come and announce price in August. And that just to make sure you get the beans and ship it to the place. You announced price earlier in August at a price of 3,625 per bag, using your forward sales that you've made. And Ghanaian farmers are given a guaranteed price. So once you give them a price of 3,625, it's supposed to cover the entire season. It means you have done your calculation to see how much you sold and how much you are getting. If the previous government in 2024 had been able to sell the whole season cocoa so that you come in and you do not have excess cocoa to give you problems to the extent that it's even eating into 2025, 2026. You come in, what you have to sell is 2025, 2026 cocoa. It gives you comfort. The same way you had the option of selling your cocoa for 2026.
So from where you sit, where is the problem? What is the problem? The problem is that Dr. Randy Abbey last year, instead of selling 2025, 2026 cocoa all on forward, when they knew prices were very high, because mind you, I saw the projection that Isaac did. This is the first time in many years that prices have reached where they are. And the reason why prices were where they are is because there was a shortage in beans. So you speak to the specifics. When you talk about prices at what point? And
prices moved
speak about them directly.
Prices moved from $2,000 to $3,000.
Right.
Prices have stayed at between $2,000 to $3,000 for a very long time.
Right.
Then from 2023, it starts to rise. It rises steadily. By the time middle of 2023 to 2024, it shoots up. By the time it gets to 2024, we are around $10,000.
Right.
To the extent that even when we entered 2025, there was a particular day it went all the way to $13,000. Then it comes down between 12,000, comes to 8,000, 10,000. You know, cocoa is volatile. Yeah. Every day in the prices they record. So today, yes, they are projecting it. Today you go to the market, it's 8,000. Tomorrow it can go to 8,500 or 9,000. It can come down the following day. So this is the first time you've had that in many years.
So from 10, it plummets.
So you know that it's not going to stay there forever because production has started to increase. Already, you have come to announce that you are expecting 650,000 metric tons. So the buyers know that previously in 2023, you had done 432,000 metric tons. So if you are going to 630,000 metric tons, there's going to be a glut. Ivory Coast was doing about 1.8 million tons. Definitely, Ivory Coast production will go up a little. So every buyer, knowing that there is going to be a glut in the market, will push price down. This is speculation in trading. It will start to push price down. So any trader knew that the prices were not going to stay there forever. With that clarity, it is obvious, and it's the best decision to take is to sell your cocoa forward and take advantage of the position then.
Okay.
So once you've taken advantage
of the position, at what point?
From last year, they should have sold forward even their light crop beans.
Right.
So that you know that within this season.
At the time when it was 10,000.
Yes, 8,000 to 10,000.
8,000 to 10,000. And now we
last
are
year,
having to
it had not dropped
at 3,000.
Exactly. So, and you knew that you have sold about 82% of your beans. You have light crop beans ahead of you. From this period going, it's light crop beans that will be coming.
So the problem is not selling.
It's not selling. That's why you have beans left, about 50,000 or 70,000 beans left, and you are claiming the buyer is saying your cocoa is expensive. No, it is not the buyer claiming your cocoa is expensive. Market has crashed, and you have stock, and you can't sell.
Your suspicion is that we're trying to hoard.
We're trying to hold on in expectation of higher price. Exactly.
So it's a loss.
It's a loss.
It's a business
wrong calculation that has been done. It's a wrong calculation that has been done.
Okay, so hold on. Randy will explain that. Because he's projecting the minority in Parliament's position, let's hear what the minority led by Kojo Nkrumah had to say, including asking for the head of Randy Abbey.
This action to announce a 28% reduction in the price amounts to a haircut of about 28% on close to 1 million Ghanaian cocoa farmers. Already when you go into the cocoa growing areas, I was in my areas just a few days ago. A lot of young people are already not going into cocoa because they say the older folk who went into it, they don't see a transformation in their lives. It's left with the old, elderly, poor on the farms. When you do this, what is going to happen in subsequent years is that even those ones will not be going into the cocoa production. If they won't sell their cocoa farms to Galamsey operators, God knows what they will do. All of this has come about because of the reset that COCOBOD did. And that is why, respectfully, we ask the president to relieve the COCOBOD CEO of his responsibilities at this point in time. Number two, we are asking the government that in previous times when cocoa prices fell and the government absorbed the shock and protected the cocoa farmer, the NDC government should absorb the cost of what they have done and protect the cocoa farmer and restore at least the 3,625 that they promised. This 2,800 or so that they are promising is totally unacceptable. Already we are receiving messages from cocoa farmers who say that if this is what is going to happen, they are going to demonstrate in a number of these. And if they do, we in this caucus, we will join them on the streets to do this demonstration. We thank.
I'm even surprised that the IMF is sleeping over this. Because we developed this strategy in consultation with the IMF as a requirement, one of the requirements for implementing the IMF program. I'm really surprised that the IMF has gone to sleep on this. And this government is recklessly managing the cocoa sector, which...
How do you respond to this? Whilst it looks like a pure commercial matter, this country, we must look at things from the political lens.
I'll start off with a question to Michael. From 2017 to 2024, did you forward sell 100% of the projected output?
100%?
Yes.
No, definitely you do about 70 or 30 because that time, for a trader, that time you knew prices were low. That's why I said, when you know that prices are very high, every trader will look at the market situation at every point
Don't look at me anymore because
yes,
he asked me. So go ahead.
Every point in time, depending on the market circumstance, that is how you trade. Trading is not, let's say, is not something that is fixed. So let's say your time, your period last year, you've seen the market, you've seen that production is going up. Didn't you know production was going up? You knew your production was going up, Ivory Coast production is going up. So any trader will know that within the next few months, there's a likelihood that the market will respond and prices may go down. So for me as a trader, if I've seen that and I know the price is high, I will forward sell most of my contracts. And the same way, when the market has a lot of beans, and you know that prices are around 3,000, 2,000, and you are not assured that it will go up, you try to take advantage of spot positions too. So you sell more forward to get clarity and take advantage of spot position. Okay. So it depends on the period.
If he asks you a question, be quick with the answer so you can continue.
So in 2023-24, your forward sale that you did, what was the implication for 24-25?
2023-24, the market was now rising. The market was now becoming bullish. So every point, every time they were selling. So if you look at the prices that they achieved, every day and specific prices that they got, because they can't sit and wait. So they were selling all the
point I'm making is that 23-24, you made forward sales.
Yes.
And you could not deliver.
Because the prices were then going up.
Please. You made forward sales. And you could not deliver. You projected an output of 800,000. and you forward sold 786,000.
Yes.
Now that decision
and delivered.
You couldn't deliver 333,000
yes, because that was a force majeure. You had El Nino effect. You are sitting at COCOBOD. You knew that 2023-24 there was a weather condition globally that affected Ghana and Ivory Coast. Let Isaac show you his projection. How did Ivory Coast cocoa reduce from 2.5 million to 1.8 million? The same thing that happened to Ivory Coast happened to Ghana.
So you see, Samson. Okay,
there
now
was a dry
please
spell.
allow him. So, Samson, this is a party that forward sold. They made an output, they projected an output of 800,000 and forward sold 786,000. Now, at the time that you announce prices, you forward sell. It is just about when the season is about starting. So, are you suggesting that the El Nino occurred when the crops were on the trees and they were being harvested? That's one. Two, that decision of forward settling almost 100%. You projected 800,000. You forward sold 786,000. You could not deliver 333,000. You had forward sold this at 2,600. And you could not deliver 333. So the following year, when the prices shot up to the 12,000, 11,000, 10,000, you could only declare an FOB of 4,800 with the farmer getting a share of 3-1. And that was as a result of this your forward sale strategy. You could not deliver 333,000.
That was
about
a big loss.
45%.
Iranda, you're not even putting it well.
45%.
A contract had come into existence for the 767 tons. 86 tons that you sold. So if you couldn't deliver 333 tons, meant that the following year, that contract, you were bound. You were bound by that contract. And so you were forward selling.
Yes.
Yeah.
In that year.
Yeah.
So your action was not limited to the year that you took the decision.
Yes.
It cascaded into the next year because you couldn't. And
but
then
futures a hedging.
So it means that even if cocoa prices were 10,000 in the second year,
you still gave it at
the price that you locked in.
You could have done forward sales to prices of 4, and you
it's
a position.
So I'm saying that
I don't know.
You, the proponents of this, this is what you bequeath the cocoa farmer, such that in the history of cocoa, no farmer can beat his chest. My brother here cannot beat his chest and say that. At a point in time in history, when cocoa prices reached 12,000 and 10,000, I made so much money from cocoa that I bought this, I expanded my farm, or I did this. As a result of that, your forward sales strategy, where you forward sold, you projected 800,000, you forward sold 786,000 at an average of $2,600, you could not deliver about 45% in crop forecast. How can you have a deviation of 45%? You couldn't deliver that. And so in the ensuing year, we had to use this high-priced cocoa to service these 333,000 tons. And that obviously brought the weighted average down completely. So at the time when you had the then opposition people saying that the farmer should get 6,000 or 7,000 and all that, if you, Samson, you see the world price, like Isaac is projected, and you have the lowest of the averages at $9,000, and you hear that the farmer is being given 3,100, would that not represent about 30%?
That's right.
Would you not raise alarm? But nobody knew that there was an elephant in the room called rollover, which had been sold at 2,600. And that the effect was 333,000 tons, about 45% of the crop forecast. So that then affected the 24-25 pricing. And that is how come no farmer can say that once upon a time when the prices of cocoa were 12,000, 11,000, farmer this, I got X or I got Y as a result of that forward decision. And I'm saying that you also you cannot also separate the funding model from how you sell. Sometimes we make it look as if you can go and force a buyer to buy your crop. You can force the buyer. The same way that you're analyzing, the buyer is also analyzing. All of those buyers have research and all that. They can also project, they can also see.
I want us to, you guys relax a bit for me. Let me get to the farmer and return to you guys again on the proposed solutions, including getting into the bond market. So let's hear you first, Inosa.
I think that this issue is not a 2025 issue.
Am I right to think that from what Michael is suggesting, it is not really the case that Randy's regime, they were cautious because of the previous loss from the forest sale. So they were cautious not to do a similar thing.
Let me just, because of what you said, let me just chip in something. That thing they did was under the syndication.
Syndication.
Where you had to forward sell in accordance with what you expect to raise to buy the crop. So you push an output of 800,000, you go and sign contracts for 786,000 because of what you expect to raise. As to whether your projection was founded or not founded, we can't tell. Do you understand what I'm saying? But for the first time in the history of COCOBOD, you have a crop forecast that goes off by 45%. Okay. And that was under the syndication, the last time that a syndication loan was raised and it collapsed.
All right. Okay, thank you.
So as somebody who studies the market and also look at the activities of COCOBOD over the years, this problem of COCOBOD that has manifested did not start today. You remember the 2024 campaign? I saw you in that meeting where the vice president was asked a pointed question whether COCOBOD was crashing.
He refused to answer.
He refused to answer.
Yeah.
It's not a new problem.
A journalist had asked the question that COCOBOD was collapsing.
Collapsing.
And he said he didn't know where he was coming with his facts. He didn't know about it. He won't answer it.
Good. But now,
it's a
position then.
Okay.
It was the what?
It was a good position because for any company.
The vice president saying that it's a good
position.
But
now looking back, it sounds to me
not answering
that people had
picked the signals
of a situation
at
the time.
Possibly,
people had picked the signals.
He didn't have the figures then.
All right.
And for any institution, you look at both revenues and everything before you determine whether it's going.
Okay. Let's hear.
So what I'm saying is that people had picked the signals.
But when you decide to when your cocoa bills in 2023, it becomes part of DDEP, and you decide to reschedule that debt, what is the signal you're sending out? The signal is that you're broke. When Ghana declared DDEP, what happened to Ghana?
But then it's not only that.
What happened to Ghana?
You must also look at, so first of all, we must all understand that people picked credible signals that COCOBOD was collapsing in 2024. Credible. And the projection they just made, you can see 2023, 2024, what happened. You can see clearly that COCOBOD raked up heavy debts in those years. You can see it. Two, you also have to understand that because of what happened, the failure, refusal, or neglect to deliver by contract affected the confidence of buyers. So they were not now ready to pre-finance the buying of the cocoa beans. That was why a new funding model came into being. That shook the market and destroyed the confidence of those who had provided stable capital. Okay? Now, you combine it with and for 8 years, I was in Parliament for 4 of those 8 years of the NPP. The administrative costs of COCOBOD continuously kept rising. Anytime they took the syndicated loan, they spent a heavy part of the syndicated loan on themselves, on administration. We raised red flags that this model was not sustainable. You go and look at the cocoa rows, the amount of money in that period that was spent on cocoa rows. Then you ask yourself, what model was that? How can you rake in that debt and still think that an institution, a trading institution like COCOBOD, could survive? Now, if you enter into a delivery contract, fail to deliver the quantities, the obligation under that contract, you're not excused of that obligation. Yeah. You're not excused. Yeah. So you had forward sold. And
PENDREAM TV now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.